Hey there, and welcome to season 3 of Holding Down the Fort. I am your host, Jen Amos. And whether this is your first episode or you are a returning listener, welcome, and allow me to reintroduce myself. And no joke, I actually do have some notes here. So if you see my eyes moving, that's why. Again, if you are learning about Holding Down the Fort for the first time, this podcast show, was inspired by a number of conversations my colleagues and I had at US Vet Wealth in summer of 2019. At the time, my colleagues were primarily veterans, so naturally we worked with a lot of veterans or our active duty service members. But quite often, we had come to find that at the end of the day, the most important decisions made for military families always, and rightfully so, had to include the spouse. Through my own personal experience as a former military child and Gold Star daughter, and the many stories that have been told on the show so far, it's not a secret that spouses are often responsible to holding down the fort. So holding down the fort means to be in charge of a place where the person who is usually in charge is away. For this show, this mainly relates to the spouses and families who primarily take charge of the household, whether that be the finances, the children, moving, etc., during and after active duty service. Unfortunately, and quite admirably, our spouses and families have very unique challenges compared to our civilian counterparts. Not only do they have the difficult task of balancing work and home demands, they have to do it around the day-to-day demands of the service member, and they have to do it while finding new resources and establishing new relationships after every PCS. And often they make these decisions alone based off of the limited firsthand information that they are given, if they're given the information. So our intent for Holding Down the Fort is the same today as it was in the beginning. We want to be your supplemental resource of knowledge, resources, and relevant stories so you can continue to make confident and informed decisions for yourself and your family. I'm really happy to have you back. And again, if this is your first time listening, if this is the first season you're listening to, you're in for a treat because we have been working on this since summer of 2019. As I mentioned, we've learned a lot along the way and we're coming back better than ever. So here's what to expect for season 3 of Holding Down the Fort podcast. First of all, we have a newsletter and it's optional to subscribe, although people prefer to subscribe to it because they can get the latest updates on our show. But you could also check out our newsletter. We typically post it on our social media platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, etc. But again, if you want to actually get that in your inbox, check out the show notes of this episode or in the description of this video, whichever you're watching this at, to subscribe to our newsletter. One thing I like about our newsletter is it's not just a recap of our show, it's not just a recap of the guests we've had on the show, but it's actually a collaboration. It's a collection of resources by military spouses, by advocates of military spouses, the guests who've been on the show. You can go a bit deeper with them and what they have to offer to our community right in our newsletter. And so if that's something that is of interest to you, I highly encourage you to subscribe to our newsletter. Again, you could check out the show notes of this episode or this video. So we do have a website. If you want to get in touch with me or learn everything about Holding Down the Fort, it's pretty simple. It's just holdingdownthefortpodcast.com. Again, that's holdingdownthefortpodcast.com. And on our website at holdingdownthefortpodcast.com, you will get our social media, our YouTube channel, because moving forward for season 3, we're planning on doing more videos such as this, especially with my husband who will be joining us on our show. He is the founder and CEO of US Vet Wealth, which is also the company I'm proud to work for and the sponsor of Holding Down the Fort. And so you'll be able to see more of our faces and get to know us a little bit more, and also some of our guests if they choose to opt in to do video interviews with me. Also, for season 3, we have decided to be extra ambitious. And so what that means is typically in the past, we would post once a week on Mondays, but now we're actually going to be publishing 3 episodes a week. So we're typically going to aim for Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, unless it's a federal holiday. And we are excited to come out with more stories and experts in our military community. And as well as I mentioned, you'll get to know more about me and my husband and our company, US Vet Wealth. So typically Monday and Wednesdays are going to be reserved for spouses who want to be on the show and share their story, whether it's the spouses or military family members, or we'll have experts who advocate for military families and come on and share their expert advice. Or, of course, if they are a nonprofit serving our military community, you'll be able to hear from them as well. So that'll typically be what will take place on Monday and Wednesdays. And then as for Fridays, that's going to be, I'm still trying to figure out the name. Maybe you can help me out with it. I might call it Finance Fridays with Jen and Scott, or Financial Freedom Fridays with Jen and Scott being my husband. Anyway, I'm still trying to figure that out. But basically, Fridays is going to be dedicated to financial education specifically for our military families. And like I said, you'll get to see a little bit more about me and my husband and our team, who I might be able to bring on occasion to chat more with all of you and continue to give you valuable information that you can benefit and use today. Also, another fun thing I want to share for season 3 is I do have a co-host now. And so she'll be joining me from time to time to add her perspective of being an active duty military spouse in the conversations we have. So I'm not going to reveal her name yet. You're just going to have to listen in the upcoming episodes. And from there, you'll get a chance to learn a little bit more. You'll get a chance to learn about her story and what compelled her to be on the show and contribute to the conversation. Another thing to expect is that we are actively accepting guests now. And so whether you are affiliated with the military, and that could be active duty or even post-military, like you're in the civilian life already, and you want to share your story and words of wisdom to our community, particularly the active duty military families, or if you are an expert who advocates for military families and you want to share your knowledge on our show, or you're a nonprofit that wants to, get more exposure and reach more military families, we want to hear from you. Check out the show notes of this episode or visit holdingdownthefortpodcast.com to apply today. The application is out there. It's open. Anyone can apply. And if you're a great fit for our show, we'll absolutely have you on. All right, that is some of the exciting things to look forward to when it comes to season 3 of Holding Down the Fort. I am very much looking forward to venturing on this new season with you. As I said, we have grown so much. I personally have learned so much from this experience. And I have personally taken the time to truly own my story as a Gold Star daughter, coming back to the military community 20 plus years later to, learn about myself and my father's story. And most of all, give back to the community that raised me, for the first 10 years of my life. If you are curious to learn more about my background, you can check out the show notes of this episode, and I will provide a link to one of the past episodes at the beginning of season 2 of Holding Down the Fort, where I share with you a little bit about my story and my father, who had served in the 80s and 90s, and we had unfortunately lost him while he was on active duty. So it's a story that I'm very proud to share. It took a really long time for me to get to this place, considering how I did lose my father when I was 10. And so hopefully you will take the time to listen to that episode. It's not an easy thing for me to repeat, to be quite honest, but I do hope that you take the time to listen to that episode and learn why I've decided to, not just work with my husband, but really find some self-healing by doing the show, Holding Down the Fort, and ultimately giving back to this amazing community, which is this community that is less than 1% of our American population. So with that said, if you have been a follower and you've really enjoyed our show so far, or you actually like this trailer video, which I really appreciate, or this trailer episode, depending on if you're listening to us on the podcast or our YouTube channel, I would really love for you to leave a kind 5-star written review. I say written review because I love feedback. I like to know if I'm doing something right. And so if you can go ahead and visit Apple Podcast or Podchaser. Podchaser is kind of like the Google reviews of podcasting, or Yelp, depending on what generation you're in and where you usually get your reviews from. But Podchaser is a place to leave reviews for podcast shows. Or if you like me specifically, or you enjoy me as a host of Holding Down the Fort, feel free to visit my LinkedIn account, which I will also include in the show notes here. And I would absolutely love if you can leave me a written recommendation on my LinkedIn profile. So once again, there's 3 places where you can leave a review. It's either Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, or you can leave a recommendation on my LinkedIn account. So I do want to take a second, if this is the first time you're listening to the show, or you are interested to hear what other people have said about our show so far. So I'm actually pulling up some of the reviews I have here on Apple Podcasts. We have nothing but 5-star reviews since we started the show. So I'm going to read a couple of them that I have come to enjoy, that I really appreciate. And it's a good ego booster, I think. All right, here we go. So this is the first one by VertForce, which is a wonderful, young, yet very successful company in the recent years, where they primarily focus on employing military spouses for remote work. And so they are very incredible. Shout out to Kimber Hill and her team for the good work that you have already done in VertForce so far in helping our military spouses get employment and be able to work remotely as well, which is really the dream for many military spouses, right? So here's a review that they left for us, a 5-star written review. Jen is a fun and lively host who provides a good balance of showcasing her guests while also sharing her own relatable stories and experiences. Her podcast feels like a conversation between two people that you get to listen in on. I highly recommend giving Holding Down the Fort a listen. So thank you, VertForce, so much for that. The next one here is by Kirst. So she says here, another 5-star written review. So thank you, Kirst. This is the resource the military community has needed for so long. Jen does a beautiful job of bringing content experts from all branches and experiences to the table to connect resources to the military community. So thank you, Kirst, so much for that. Really appreciate you leaving that kind review. So here's another one. They didn't really put their name, but another 5-star review that says important show, which addresses important topics for people serving our country. This one is by Sabrina Chapman. Really appreciate her energy here. I could feel her energy in writing this post. She says, Jen is fabulous and her light and spirit shine through her podcast. Relevant topics that are helpful and empowering. Love it. This is from someone who named themselves a Son of the Most High God. Another 5-star written review, super creative show. This is such a great podcast for military families. Having a spouse deployed introduces an entirely new family dynamic, and not many people know how to adjust. This podcast helps handle those adjustments. Highly recommend. Thank you so much for that. And the last one I want to share is by Ben Keloy, who is the host of the Military Veteran Dad podcast. I actually had the fortune of being on his show a couple of months ago, so highly recommend you check out his podcast. Again, that's Military Veteran Dad podcast, and hopefully you'll catch me on there as well, telling my story as a Gold Star daughter and what I recommend for military fathers today. But anyway, this is what Ben says. What a passionate host. I absolutely love how the host is taking her mess and making it to her message. These stories are going to move mountains for people. Ben, thank you so much for your review. I absolutely appreciate you taking the time to do that on my show. All right, so those are a couple of reviews. If this is the first time you're listening to the show, I hope that this gives you a quick overview of what to expect for season 3. You're more than welcome to start from the very beginning of the whole series back to season 1. I'm not going to stop you. However, if you're going to start from here, this is a great place to start on our show. Like I said, we have learned a lot, and I'm really excited to be rolling out more episodes for you and more content and more incredible people in our community and for our community. So the last thing I want to share an absolutely fun announcement. I have to give a shout out to the Rosie Network because Holding Down the Fort actually has been chosen as a finalist for the Rosie Network Entrepreneur Awards. So I'm really excited about that. Shout out to Stephanie Brown and her team at the Rosie Network. We're going to find out who the winner is. Hopefully we have an award in mind that we hope to win. I'm not going to say it yet. So I really want to take the time to thank our listeners and our supporters in the past who actually helped us get nominated for this award. And now being one of the finalists, we're really excited. And it's just even more motivating to keep doing this show. It's very validating to know that, our listeners and our community wants to see us as a finalist and wants to see us win an award from the Rosie Network Entrepreneur Awards. So while we're waiting for the winner announcements, which will be on October 21st, and you can follow the Rosie Network for more information on that, I also want to give a shout out to our past guests who have been on our show. If you're looking for the movers and shakers of today, that is also on this list, this finalist list for the Rosie Network Entrepreneur Awards. I encourage you to go back to a couple of episodes and check out the following people who are also finalists and have been on our show. So shout out to Jaime Chapman, Lily Dagdag, Nikki James-Zellner, Natalie Setareh, and Annette Whittenberger. So again, these are guests that we've had on the show. That's Jaime Chapman, Lily Dagdag, Nikki James-Zellner, Natalie Setareh, and Annette Whittenberger. Congrats, ladies. We're all women. Wow, that's amazing. I'm very happy to see that. Yeah, women power. And of course, we also have an upcoming guest that's going to be on our show that's also a finalist for these Entrepreneur Awards. So shout out to Elaine Dusetzina, who I have known for many years now. And so it's just great to see people in our community that are movers and shakers today being featured. No matter what happens with these awards, I'm just so grateful to be affiliated with these incredible people that are going out of their way to give back to the community and do good work. So congrats everyone for being finalists. We made it. And now we're going to wait till October 21st of 2020 to see who wins an award, right? So wish us the best of luck, and we'll keep you updated as the show goes on. So stay tuned for that. All right. And that's pretty much all I have to share at this point. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to, listen to this trailer and get an idea of what season 3 of Holding Down the Fort is going to look like. If you are listening to this on our show, on our podcast show, I want you to know that this particular episode is also on video on YouTube. You can check out the link to our YouTube channel in our show notes of this episode or on our website, holdingdownthefortpodcast.com. Like I said, I want to be in front of the camera more. I want you all to see me, know me, like me. And also I'm excited to bring on my colleagues at US Vet Wealth, including my husband, Scott R. Tucker. So with that said, welcome to season 3 of Holding Down the Fort. And I am really excited to dive into these upcoming conversations and stories and life lessons, knowledge and resource, and all of these amazing things that the military community can benefit from. All right. Once again, I'm Jen Amos, your host, and I look forward to speaking with you in the next episode. Thank you so much for watching or listening to this trailer of Holding Down the Fort.